Start with an opening prayer, so everybody remove cover. We'll ask people heading forward to the opening prayer.
Our gracious Father in heaven, we thank you for bringing us together this day as friends and neighbors. Father, we are so grateful for this country, for this county, and for this place we live. Father, we pray for kindness, for understanding, and effectiveness this day. We thank you for our many blessings, and we say this to you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
For those people that are on Zoom, can you please turn off your audio? Can you please mute your audio? If you're on Zoom, mute your audio, please.
Kelly?
Can you mute?
Yes, we'll do it for him.
Can you mute them? Yes. If you are on Zoom, will you please mute your audio?
Mute them.
All right. We'll be led in pledge by Miss Audrey McQueen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and for all.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the agenda? I would like to make one proposal, and that would be that on the action items, A and B, we switch them and reverse it. And so the first action item would be consideration of the burn ordinance. And the second item would be the consideration for the declaration of emergency.
Would you like a motion?
Yes, if there's no further discussion, is there a motion?
Motion, we approve the agenda with the changes indicated.
I'll second.
The motion is seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, at this time, we will open up public hearing and the first item that we're going to have public hearing on is the emergency ordinance 01-2025 requiring persons to initiate open burns in Catherine County to notify the county manager 12 hours in advance. And so that's pretty self-explanatory.
Mr. Chairman, I would request that, it's there's something the fire service that was requesting this to appropriately up to speak on why they do this.
Okay, definitely.
Charles Pointed, Chief, Cruiseville, Apache Creek, Aragon Fire and Rescue. I'm here representing all the county fire departments. We've seen a drastic uptick in with this dry weather of controlled burns getting away and becoming a substantial wildland fire. The largest being of 80 acres up in the northern end of the county. So what we're looking for is an ordinance that will require people to notify the county manager at least 12 hours prior to putting any type of fire on the ground. County manager will have the authority to look at what the projected fire weather is going to be and either give it a go or no go. We'll never tell somebody that they can burn, but we will tell them, no, it's not a good idea with the projected weather. When this is to fall on a weekend, we are requesting modification to where they notify the sheriff's dispatch, because every time these fire departments get called out for controlled fire that somebody might even be doing 100% properly, if we don't know ahead of time that this is a planned burn, we have a lot of moving parts and pieces that go into place, and that just increases the exposure for the volunteers responding to these calls to have some type of incident occur. So by having a required notification, it allows us to be aware of the situation and be able to send just one person to go check on this and not be doing complete department page outs. Also gives us the ability to say that it's not a good idea to do this at this time. Thank you.
Yes. Is there anyone else that would like to make comment on the burn notice? Yes, ma'am.
Is this simply branding?
No. It's going to be burn slash.
Yeah, any like debris or anything like that, trash burn or whatever?
Because I'm assuming when you are branding, you're doing it in a pen, that type of thing where the exposure is very minimal. Yes.
Yep. Just remember, worm after you brand. They will light up. Yes.
I certainly agree with the notification of burning. But there is one paragraph in the ordinance. The county manager will make recommendations whether or not the requested burn is advisable under weather conditions. County manager doesn't necessarily know what the existing weather conditions are in Glenwood or in that, for instance.
So let me just interrupt there. Our acting county manager has a fire background, and she is familiar with being able to pull up the different NOAA websites and see what the projected fire weather would be for the different portions of the county. Granted, we might need to revisit that in the future if we replace the county manager, having somebody else with the background being able to make that decision.
Yeah, here's my issue. If the county manager is approving a burn and the fire goes out of control and it does begin to burn their neighbor's property, then the county, correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian, could be liable since we approved the burn.
Well,
That's out of control. This is a question.
So probably clarification in there, we'll never be approving fire use, but we will be telling them, no, you absolutely cannot.
Okay, if that's the case, then we need to strike the language recommend whether or not. And just say they will notify you that you cannot burn.
Okay, that would be fine.
So my recommendation is we make the change to take out approval of the burn and indicate that cannot burn today.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Anybody else that would like to make a comment? Public comment on the burn? Seeing as there is none, is there a motion?
The next slide.
Oh, I mean, sorry, so now we'll move on to action items. So this will be B, considerations of emergency ordinance 01-2025, requiring persons initiating open burns in Captain County to notify the county manager 12 hours in advance.
Is there a timeline on this?
Yeah, there is 12 hours.
12 hours.
No, I mean when the ordinance was approved.
This is an emergency ordinance, so it goes into effect immediately.
And when does it end?
So again, when either the county manager determines that there's enough rain or this boy, done by order or by plan of the ordinance.
Right for rain.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
No motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have to do it here's not good.
Okay,
Roll call. District 1,
Buster Green? Aye.
District 2,
Audrey McLean, aye.
District 3.
Hayden Forward, aye.
Okay. Yeah. Now we'll move to actually action item A, but we'll do a public hearing first on consideration of resolution 56-2025, declaring emergency in Catherine County due to extreme continual injury and damage caused by Mexican gray wolf. Right before we start, we'd like to open up the time. We are going to limit time to 3 minutes on those that have not scheduled to speak. We'd ask you to state your name and where you are from. And we would like to open up time first to anyone who would like to speak in public comment that isn't scheduled to speak. We have some people that have been scheduled to speak, and we will do them after. So we're just opening up this time now. If you have not been scheduled to speak, if you would like to say something, we're inviting you to make comments or anything. This is not a discussion time, so there won't be answers or to your questions, but we do invite your comments and your opinions. So we'll open up the time to the public. Is there anyone? Okay, right. We'll start right back here and then we'll go this way. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Randall Major.
Yeah. So, Mr. Majors, if you'll come to the podium here and just ask, because it's being zoomed. So, yeah, and we just ask, state your name and where you're from.
Randall Major, Magdalena, New Mexico. I won't take up a lot of time because everybody else is going to say what I needed to say, but something a little different I wanted to say. I read all the news articles in the last couple of days about this particular meeting from Albuquerque, political, and all the people that live in Albuquerque and the cities are talking about why we need to have these endangered species, and the people on the subdivisions that moved out here to Catherine County because of all these wonderful wolves and get close to nature. But I just wanted to make one point real quick. All those people they were quoting probably have never seen a wolf or even a track. And those people that think this wolf is so great, they have absolutely no skin in the game. We're losing livestock. They're getting eating the back end of our cattle out, our calves out. This thing is getting completely out of hand, and I'm really glad you guys are doing this. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. The wolves are really, totally different, as you all know, than coyotes, because the wolves are killers. They're just real killers, and that's why they eradicated them 100 years ago. All I guess.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next we have right here.
Robert Teal. I'm from Arizona, over around Vernon, and we have the same problem that y'all have over here. And I've been watching this for years. I do a lot of trapping, so I'm in the woods. I see these wolves everywhere. One area up around PS Ranch, there's a herd pack of about 17 of them, and they're just decimating our ungulates in that area, just killing. They're in our neighborhoods. They're killing livestock. They're killing pets. The government can't control them. And they're north of I-40, where it's supposed to be the boundary line. They've lost control of it. The population was too large, and they are killing livestock like you wouldn't believe. And the government can't control them. They can't compensate the pet owners and the livestock owners adequately for their losses. I believe that they should do away with this program, turn it over to the state livestock program, the state game and fish, let states deal with them. That's what I have to say, and that's the way I feel. They're killers.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Lori Snaberger. We have Raptor Spear Ranch in Western Sierra County and a little sliver of pasture in Catherine. I want to thank you all for doing this and just sing the praises of this county for standing on the front line for all of us. This has been our 27th year dealing with these wolves. Our first wolves came into our home on our deeded land in 1999, December. And everybody acts like Sierra County is not impacted. But we are impacted. And the support we get is minimal. So our hearts are with you guys on this side of the county line. And we want to thank you just profusely for continuing to pursue some kind of equity in this program. I think the last 3 years we've spent an extra $45,000 a year running livestock guardian dogs. And it's a full-time job for me with overtime unpaid. So it works, it helps. It's not foolproof. I think I got a little overconfident in my dog's ability, but everybody's going to tell you from the other side, just get some dogs. It's not that easy. It's very difficult. You have all kinds of extra bills, vet bills. We've had 2 incidents in the last couple of months where dogs have been in fights with wolves, and then they need vet care. And then these dogs we have are ready to go again. So it helps, but it's a huge expense. And it's just another expense put on people without a lot of financial support. So I just wanted to thank you all. And I want to point out that the Fish and Wildlife Service said there were 169 puppies at the beginning of this year. And only somewhere around 65 of them survived. They can't possibly know that. They only count uncollared wolves that are with collared wolves. This is dispersal season. Counting during dispersal season lowers the number significantly. There is no way that we lost 100 puppies in the last year, not with them eating livestock almost completely. And the only reason they're having such a spike in numbers is because they are getting a big lot of their food supply off of livestock. That causes larger litters and more wolves. So, Sean.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Carolyn Nelson. I'm a rancher's wife down in Alma. I have grandkids who want to be ranchers. I haven't read the resolution, and one of the recommendations, the wording that I hope is in there, is to protect the nation's food supply, because I think that makes it a legitimate request. Because in the treaty, there was an Endangered Species Act treaty that goes back to the Migratory Bird Treaty. It specifically says in there that agriculture is to not be harmed. And so I think when we add the words to protect the nation's food supply, I think that makes it legitimate. It makes it not just a rancher issue, it makes it a national interest. So,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you for doing this also.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Clumker. I've had the San Francisco River Outfitters. I've been packing hunters into the Gila Wilderness for 39 years. 2 years ago, the game department had 138 bull elk tags out of 4 units on top. 95 came out of the wilderness unit. We're covered up with wolves in the wilderness. The success rates are going way down. It's just a matter of time before the wolves take out the elk herds. The wilderness has been a special place, but it's covered up with wolves, and Catron County relies heavily on the outfitting industry. I think there's like 6 outfitters right in the reserve area here. I'm real sorry for the cattle growers. I'm a retired rancher myself, but it's affecting our elk herds. And I think That's part of the issue here today, and I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone? Yes, name.
I wrote it down so I wouldn't screw it up. I'm Elena Farr, cattle growers member, local rancher. And I just wanted to say, I don't know if I speak for all the people of Catron County, but I think most of us are tired of seeing our industry slowly strangled by government-funded mismanagement and oppression. We lost logging because of the spotted owl, and now cattle ranching is literally under attack by Mexican wolves in the wolf program. When the cattle are gone, our wildlife is next on the menu. And guess what? There goes our hunting outfitting industry. As their prey base shrinks, the wolves become bolder. And then humans and pets, which have historically been part of that menu, are next. Letting this happen through government sanction is madness. This needs to end, and I applaud you all for coming up with this resolution. And I support it, and I pray for its success. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, and then we'll come up here.
I'm not good at speaking in public, and hopefully I don't embarrass my wife. I just want to let you people know that who have horses, doesn't matter how good you are with it, doesn't matter how good they are, you will never be reimbursed for what they're worth. We had a 10-year-old horse that's considered old. I've trained horses all my life. I'm getting nervous. Anyway, Wolf's got him. The two with him will never be the same. Get pissed off. But anyway, they were going to give us $3,000 for him. Oh, he'll pull a buggy. A couple of on him. Grandkid riding. He's a character. Came off the place. 2 women had him on a fancy breeding facility, and they bred him to us as a 2-year-old. He was mean. So he's a good one. We got 4,000. So let you know you won't get nothing for him.
Thank you. That's up there, and then Mr. Wells will go to you right after. Sorry.
My name's Tom McNabb. I live on the Dry Blue. I moved there just about pretty much at the beginning of the wolf program. And I started out cowboying in southeastern Oregon, Idaho, Nevada desert. And my boss got tired of the drought down there, and he moved up to Prince George, BC. And I went up there and I worked for him for a couple years up there. And his niece was studying at Texas A&M to be a wildlife biologist. And there were lots of wolves up in Canada, up near Prince George, but they had plenty of moose to eat, so they didn't bother the cattle much. But if they did bother the cattle, the game and fishing, you'd just call the game and fish, and they'd be out there with their helicopter, and they'd get that wolf. But and then they started protecting wolves in Canada. Well, going back to my first wolf meeting in Alpine, after that wolf meeting, I called up the boss's niece and I said, hey, Jane, what do you think of this wolf program here? Because she had a lot to do with the wolf reintroduction in Yellowstone. And she said, that wolf program is no good. They're doing it all wrong. It will never work. She says, besides, I don't have anything to do with wolves anymore. She says, I'm working on this wild hog problem here, and I'm helping people. And anyway, they started protecting wolves up in Canada, and they did that for 20 years. And I keep in touch with my friends up there, and I called them up and I said, how's the wolf deal going up there? And they said, well, they've stopped protecting wolves because they've come to the conclusion that it is economically devastating to the country. And so there you go. That's, it's, if this isn't economically devastating, I don't know what is, and I was at a Habitat and Species meeting a couple of years ago. And the guy running the PowerPoint and the Habitat and Species meetings, he used to be real gung-ho about protecting minnows and everything else. And he, in the middle of the meeting, he stops the PowerPoint and he says, you know what? I'm about to retire and I don't have to be so careful about what I say. And he says, none of this is about protecting species or environment or anything else. It's all politics.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Thank you guys for what you do. I'm a new guy around this country. We've only been here full time since 2011 or 13, but one of the things I always like about Catron County, stand your ground. We're the ones that own it. We want to be able to take care of it. Here a while back, I had the, I guess you'd call it privilege of visiting with a wolf, whatever his horsepower was. We had 6 of them in on one pasture. I asked him very pointed, and he kept saying, it's a matter of opinion. And I'm pretty simple. And what the Lord put in my simple brain was, I said, tell me one thing they're good for. Just one. And he went off on a dissertation with words I'd never even seen before about taking care of the elk. And I said, well, okay. I said, but I just been in that meeting in Dattle, if I understood right, there'd been over $5 million put in this program last year or so. I said, if you're really concerned about these elk, I got a novel idea. Why don't you let out more landowner tags and more draw tags? People would be glad to put that meat on their table. And I said, here's something real funny, they'll pay to do it. He had no answer. So this is not about anything they care about. It's about ruining this nation's economy. It's just the evil at large. So anyway, thank you, folks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Board of Commissioners. I appreciate you all getting this meeting here today. I'm from Cibola County, for that ranch north of Jerry Wills, and Mr. Green. I have mixed feelings right now. I lost some cattle just the other day. It's kind of disappointing. I came down here 15 years ago, started my herd, established my herd. I will continue. Well, these wolves, they become a problem. And I hope here today, all of us here can stand and come to some solution of what we're going to do with these wolves. There's plenty of wolves out there. I think there's too many. When I came down here, we had a lot of elk. We had a lot of deer. I don't see that anymore. I don't see that at all. Little small game animals I seen disappear. I got a wolf pack camped behind my camp 2 miles. And they come down anytime they want. I try to be out there every day, but they're smart. They know when Wayne's not there. And they'll come down, sneak. Hit a cow that's heavy bred. We need to put a stop, cap, whatever we have to do. Move them out. But I appreciate this meeting coming together very much. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, anyone else in unscheduled? Yes, sir, Mr. Farr, and then Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you, guys. It's a good deal you're doing. I got a couple things. Elk are starting to move out in the open country, and I'm sure it's the wolves. Something nobody ever talks about is looking at the paycheck that all these environmental groups get for pushing and saving the wolves. We need to look at what they make. That's part of the reason they're all for it in the truth. And it's kind of a sad deal when you can't protect your own private property on your private property or country you lease. That was somebody's store that they were leasing, and a hoodlum come in there and ripped it off. They'd have a little ground to stand on where we don't. Thanks again.
Yes, sir.
My name's Armstrong. I'm out of Camado in North Catron County. Rancher, outfitter. I'm also on the Soil and Water Board there, and we're getting a lot of folks talking to us about the concerns with the wolves, the occupancy, the numbers. I have a question for the room. Is there anything from the state game and fish here? From New Mexico Game and Fish? We have some support from the Bureau of Land Management here, but we don't have anybody from the state game and fish. They're at your house right now.
They're at my place right now, except with flies.
And so I'm concerned with the management of a state's, what we have in the state, that we're being overrun. We're starting to see large numbers. The pack that's moved in at Mariana Mesa is uncollared, and every day when I go to feed, I'm seeing the GPS crew out there trying to get telemetry on where these wolves are. Every day I'm hearing of the GPS wolf that's between me and Mr. Tinker's house. And we have no control over it. And we're also, with the standards that have been set in the last 2 years, we have no way to prove the kill. You've done very well with proving what you've done on that side of the county, but we're not having that same luck here. And I would hope that no matter what we do, if we don't get some sort of help, that we can find a way to change the standards for necropsy. It's critical, because if we don't get repaid for those cattle or those calves, my neighbor on the other side, Mr. Carver, he lost 2 calves. We never found a carcass, so we can't prove anything. If I can't prove that there was a kill, then there's no repayment to be made. But we know it's wolves. And so I really appreciate you guys calling this meeting today, and that's my opinion on the subject. I think hopefully this gets, it's already going to get national attention with what we're doing, but hopefully we get something up that works on ESA. To put ESA back to what it was intentionally designed for when it was written. Because it's not being run like it was designed. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, anyone else that wasn't scheduled? Yes, sir.
My name is Brandon Cadelli. I've been a guide out here, outfitter since 1990. And the elk herd now and the deer is less than 10% of what it used to be. And how I know is because I video. And I used to video them. I still do a little bit, but I've got a lot of video to prove it, back it up. Now I was told by Casey, the game warden who used to be here, that the reason why they brought the wolves in was because the outfitters and guides and hunters weren't killing off the elk and deer fast enough. But that's what I was told. So there's more to this than what's going on, and it's just about the money. But if you ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers. And if you don't do nothing, this is what happens. But it's awesome. And it's not to you guys, this is to everybody here. Thank you for being here. You can tell I'm nervous. I'm not a great public speaker. But the way to get to the bottom of all this is to go to where the source is, and this is a UN agenda. And it's a UN agenda, and all you have to do is look on the maps. And I told David Fish that I would take the wolf and go and cart him up there and drop them off. They said, you can't do that. I go, well, why not, Matt? He goes, well, because the population's too big. You can't do that. I go, well, dude, you're on the map. Oh, horse. I go, you're on the map. I can show you the map. I got it colored. So the only way, and the Game and Fish is involved in this, and it's also the federal government, because it's obvious who dumped these wolves down on us. They shoved them up our butts and down our throats. And we had no say from the very get-go. There's good to see some people here. A lot of you Tom originals. Amen. Thank you. This is bad, folks. This is really bad. I went to a tank the other day and had 6 carcasses there. 6 at one tank, all of them. They're getting decimated. They're getting demolished. And there's no way to recoup this right now. This is going to take years. And the only way is to eradicate these bastards. This is great terror that they're doing on the community. And this brings and depreciates the value of your property. It's the land they want, guys. It's the land. They want the damn dirt. They want us out of here, period. We can come together. It's the only way. Stop this. Audit them. Do something. This federal government's out of control. Obviously. We have the power. We got juries, grand juries. We haven't even got grand juries. Why can't we get no damn grand juries to get the bottom of this shit? Why? Who's stopping us? We are. We are. Look in the mirror. It's all of us.
Thank you.
Still open?
Yes, sir.
My name's Mike Ware. I'm from Wilcox, Arizona. Took me about 200 miles and an hour back. I missed the time zone here. But I just had a recent uncollared wolf kill on me, which is down by the Cherokee National Monument, southeastern Arizona. They didn't believe there was any uncollared wolves down in that area, and just totally surprised them because they knew where their collared wolves were. I applaud this commission for what you're doing. I get chills just standing here because this is where it started. And once you set this precedent and start moving forward, the other counties are going to pick up on it. We're going to go to our Cochise County Board of Supervisors, Graham County Board of Supervisors, Safford. we're working on this, but this truly helps, and I want to applaud you and thank you for taking a necessary step that is needed in getting this to go in the right direction. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, yes, ma'am. Yep, and then after her, we're gonna end the open talking time.
I'm Barbara Marks, and I'm from Arizona. I'm just across the state line, and we've ranched here in Catron County, 2 leased some ranches. I've known Audrey for some time, and really appreciate you guys doing this. And like Mr. Ware, we're hoping that we can get things rolling in Arizona as well. We've been the one good thing that came out of it with the meeting. The whole wolf thing was in the 3-year review, getting to meet Lori and Tom Trumker, and so have developed some really good friendships. But the thing is that we're all in this together. We've had several packs on us for several years. Like Lori said, we've had wolves on us since for 27 years, and they've affected us every year. And, you know, we've tried to work within the parameters that we're given, but of course they change the goalposts. They always change it, just like 100 wolves, 320. And do you remember during the 320 that they were speaking about 700 wolves? So we can see the direction that it's going, and obviously we can't take this. We've had this one pack on us for several years now. And every year we just keep losing more and more and more. And last year, and we know that it's not all wolves, but the pressure that these wolves put on the other predators was not fully examined, and is tremendous right now. And the wolves go around stealing mountain lion caches, food caches. So, but it's last year we lost either they were confirmed or no body, no crime, over 50 head. And so we're actually asking for the removal of this one pack. It's just they keep training their young how to kill livestock. And the 10J rule said that, you know, experimental, non-essential. You have bad actors out there, you take care of those bad actors. And then they stopped it. And it wasn't science behind it. There's not science behind any of it. It's all cited in court. And just like was mentioned before, these groups who are pushing this, whether it's stopping timber harvesting or putting wolves in and grizzlies and everything else, or supposedly save large minnows, even though their actions kill them. It's all put forward by groups who are making so much money off of it. It's criminal. And these fires that have started and everything, I just wish that we could start, or the government, Department of Justice, somebody would start doing them or charging them with arson or, you know, some of these other things, because it's through their actions that these fires are occurring, that we're having to sit in here right now talking about the wolves. And we have to think about it, just like was mentioned before. Our forefathers got rid of wolves and grizzly bears for a reason. It was because they did not play well with others. They're mean and vicious animals. And it's just, it's time that people wake up and realize that we have 2 calves in right now that we're doctoring, and the one little heifer, she was bitten on her head and pierced her skull. Her little buddy who was in the same area with her did not fare so well. Her skull was crushed by the wolves, confirmed, and she survived being packed out. But she died in our living room. And when they did the necropsy on her, there was a piece of skull like this that was broken out. Now, I want you all to remember the story about Zachariah Delpenthal, who was attacked by a wolf in Canada. And the story was on I Was Prey. It was in Reader's Digest. And he was camping with his family, and a young wolf came in and grabbed him by the head and pulled him out of his sleeping bag. Now, he survived it, but let's just think about that and think about those calves that I just mentioned. And I'm not going to get into an argument over whether a Mexican wolf is going to attack a human or not. I'm not going to go there because you can't convince the pro-wolf people about that. I just know what I know.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to those who've been scheduled to speak. Just gonna say a couple of words right here before. You know, we've actually been getting some news coverage the last few days. Thank Mrs. McQueen for her being able to articulate what's going on in the county and represent the county for us. And they like to pick and choose things. Greta Anderson was on and said that the county got $660,000 federal dollars. The county actually didn't get any money for the wolf. County got no money itself. I don't know if she's referring to the LIP funding, and that basically pays a person $500 for a calf, which would be a quarter of what a calf is worth right now. So anyway, so they can twist and turn whatever data that they want. They also, point out that no human has been attacked, but I think we're going to find out today that it's affected all of our lives and the way that we conduct our lives. And Abraham Lincoln said, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So government was meant to represent the people. We know that that is not the case now. We have a government that is for the government, by the government, and by gosh, you're going to do what the government says. And this part of it is a top-down thing that's been forced on us. I grew up in this county, born and raised here, and in 1998 is when the wolf was reintroduced here. I went to the public meetings here. I think a lot of people probably here did. A lot of people here, there was nobody that I can remember that was from this area that was for the reintroduction of the wolf. They bust in people from Albuquerque and Santa Fe and Silver City to represent people that were for the wolf. Not people that lived here, but we're the people that have had to live with it. And just like other people have said with wildlife, I grew up being able to see mule deer every single day. Walk out on my front porch, see mule deer, and see wild turkey every day. I have not seen a wild turkey up in northern New Mexico in years. And I might see a mule deer once or twice a month, and that's because I'm back out and I'm all over, but no longer in the deal. So they want to say that they're part of the ecosystem and that they accentuate and help out the ecosystem. Every one of us that live here know that that's a bunch of crap. So in the end, the only other thing I have to say is we like to say that America is the land of the free. Amen. Well, I love that, and I'd love to say amen to that. But we know that that's a bunch of crap right now, because if everything you own, you have to pay taxes on, and if you don't pay the government, they can come take it. Do you truly own it? No. You have to have a permit to do anything. You have to have a permit, have to ask permission. We are regulated. So I just want you to think, are we truly free? That's a bunch of crap. And they want to keep saying it's about democracy and freedom. We know what it's about. It's about power, the consolation of power, and it's about controlling people. And that's all I'll have to say. We'll turn the time over to our scheduled speaker. Okay, Miss Carrie Ann Garcia.
Morning, everybody. I am here today as a ranch manager, a livestock owner, and a mother. In the last month and a half, we've lost livestock to the Mexican gray wolf. 4 of those confirmed depredations have been on private land less than 700 yards from my front door. I have a 3-year-old daughter that plays outside. I think we've got some pictures of where these kills were in location to the houses. The furthest away kill was their first one. A little bit closer, and then this last kill that dot closest to the houses was one of my daughter's goats. So that furthest mark from the house is, I believe it was 637 yards. So that's how close they're coming to us. Now, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has let us borrow this neat little device where I can go outside and I can hear if the 2 collared wolves that are on us are around. But that's not who's killed the last 2 animals. So now we're dealing with uncollared wolves. I don't know where they are. They don't know where they are. They're offering to come out. Like right now, they're out at the ranch setting up flags as a deterrent, help keep them away from our flags. And if they get close enough to the flags, they might get shot. And supposedly that's going to help. More slides. They have placed dead animals further away as food caches for these wolves to eat and try to keep them away from the cattle. How long is that going to last? They told us if they den on us, there are programs that they can give us money for having to deal with them. They're going to also feed these wolves half a mile away from where they den. If they're going to do that, let's stick them in a sanctuary. If we're going to put money towards that, why are we playing with the public? Why are we playing with livestock? And like somebody else said, we're trying to feed America. So it's not just us. So if we're going to have to live with these wolves, there needs to be better management than what's happening. We need to be able to defend our livestock and our loved ones without fear of what might happen. They've told us if they're on private land, if they're in pursuit of livestock, sure, you can shoot them. I don't believe them. I don't believe that I'm not going to get in trouble. My boss doesn't believe them that he's not going to lose his BLM links. So what are we supposed to do? Let him come out and haze the wolves, shoot him with rubber bullets, feed him? We need to do something. We need to be able to defend ourselves at the very least. Thank you guys for having this meeting.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Mr. Holden McFall.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Holden McFall, and I'm 11 years old. I'm from Pipetown, New Mexico, and my family has run a ranch here in Catron County for 5 generations. And in all those generations, we've never faced something like this today, like we do today. We face a killer. That killer's the wolf. Those wolves kill our cows, our pets, and our wildlife. I never used to be afraid of wolves, but now I am. I used to be able to ride on our ranch alone, but now my dad says to stay close. My dad never used to pack a gun, but now he does. Please help us get rid of these wolves. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Breeley Green.
My name is Breeley Green, and I'm from Kamado.
I am here today to share an experience with you. I've been in the saddle since before I could even walk. And I was riding with my grandparents, and I was 7 when I started riding by myself. And about a couple months ago, I had an encounter with a gray wolf, with a Mexican gray wolf. And I was all by myself. I didn't know. And it followed me for about a mile. I was so scared because I was on a young horse now, and I didn't know if he was gonna buck or if I'd fall off and I was gonna make it. I didn't have service to call my dad or anything, and so it was really scary. And it finally left after a mile, and I was praying the whole time that nothing would happen, and I don't understand why these animals are here. I shouldn't have to fear that my dog won't make it because she lives outside in the cardboard. I shouldn't have to fear that when that goes to the house. I'm scared to go and play on our trampoline now because there's tracks everywhere behind our house, and our trampoline is right there in our backyard. I shouldn't have to be scared to walk out my front door. There's tracks on our porch. They've even pooped on our porch. I don't know when a wolf's life has came more important than mine. Thank you.
Yes, Melinda Walraven.
Everybody, Melinda Walraven. I grew up in Putnam County. I'm kind of like Buster. I'm 64 years old, and I grew up and I didn't fear the wolf, but it was like a story we heard about the big bad wolf. And you feared it, but it wasn't real. And I drive a school bus. Russell and I bought a ranch that joined my dad's 45 years ago. And we were 20 years old, and we had to borrow that money. And when this lady says she lost 50 cows, if I lose 50 cows, I can't make my payment. And people don't care that live in the city because they think their meat and milk comes from the store. And I drive a school bus, and I've done that for 42 years. And about 20 years ago, the county started putting little prisons for kids to get on the bus. So they would wait so the wolves wouldn't get them. What is wrong with a country and a county that wants to put kids in jail? The wolf should be in jail, not the kid. And like if someone comes into my yard and they wants to shoot a horse or they kill a cow, or what do we do to them? Oh, sure. Right. Or we shoot them. I'll shoot them. They come and do that at my house. And you know what? If I shoot a wolf, I go to prison. And my love is for kids, and my love is for this country, and my love is for God. And when they put those cages up, and then they started telling us that the kids, like at school, we've been seeing them. I guess there was one in Reserve yesterday. Was there a wolf sighting in Reserve yesterday? In the middle of Reserve. I live on the road between Dowell and Reserve, and we've seen, Nicole has driven by and seen many wolves by our house. And I have 2 guardian dogs that are very good, but they just stay right there. But the wolves have come, and my daughter-in-law has seen them taunting from here to there from her front porch. And they're trying to get my big white dogs to come away from the house. And Kelsey yelled at them. And then the dogs came back, and that wolf just kept coming closer. Well, then my son saw they were feeding the wolves horse meat in a tube. We break and train horses. We have horses everywhere. We have goats. We have chickens. And I have 4 grandkids that are there all the time. And then they were sleeping on the trampoline last year. And I had a tent. And I go out there, and the wolves are howling. And my little granddaughter Reagan is 7, and she said, "Nana, I want to come in the house. What if those wolves come and get me? Why can we not defend our families and the way we live our life? And like you said, the government people, where's PETA? They worry about the rodeo people hurting the calves. Have they seen the rear end or a bag of a cow or those baby calves' stomach ripped open so they could get the milk? And then those kids, whoever they come and feed them, come and feed the wolves with horse. And I don't know what else is in the tube of feed. But they're not afraid of us. And I know all of us know that, and we're all on the same page. But I agree, it's time we take it over. I don't want our kids to have to go to school and live in a cage and they put a fence around the football field. Because that's what they're going to say is we need to enclose the schools better where the wolves can't get into the school grounds and they can't get into the... That isn't how we should live. They shouldn't steal our pets off of our front porch. That's where we live. The wolves don't belong here. Thank you, guys. And I love these kids. This is our future. We don't want them to live in fear.
Barney Spurgeon.
name is Barney Spurgeon. I live here in Missouri. I hear all the stories about the wolf, and I believe every one of them. But on March the 14th, at my house, I live a mile and a half from here. I let my dog, I have a black and white Australian Shepherd, and he stays in the house at night. He sleeps right there by my wife's bed since he was 5 weeks old. And in my den, I have a glass door. The morning he goes over there and under the curtains, he puts his head and he looks out that door. And he started barking and and boy, something was wrong. I knew, boy, that dog was trying to break that window to get out. I let him out. It's about 300 feet back there to the forest property. And he went to that forest property and boy, he was barking, and then it was no time till he was back to a tree that's only 25 feet from my yard fence. And boy, he just scared to death, but he was barking. Every hair on him was turned up. And we've had javelinas there. And I told Sue, well, them javelinas are behind that tree and they're going to tear him up because they try to get him. So I went out of the house and went to my fence where I could see, and there was a damn wolf standing right there. He had run that dog to the house. That was March 14th. Yesterday, I was out working on a yard fence, and I'd even had a tractor, a Ford tractor running, picking up some panels and moved them. And I was working out there, and that dog was with me right there. And all of a sudden, I was tying some wire on this fence. And all of a sudden, that dog, boy, he jumped up and he started barking. And he's from here to that wall. And I looked over there to see what was wrong because, boy, you know when the dog is just barking or when something's wrong with the dog. And I looked over there and that wolf stood broadside to me out there. And one of the March 14th, when I scared him off, he didn't scare off. This wolf is gentle. He just walks out there and that man knows he's away. This one yesterday morning, I waved at him and everything, and he just walked away. He was not scared of me. I called the sheriff's department to come up and reviewed it. They were great people that come up and helped me. But what I was saying, just the Sunday before, I have a little grandson that's 3 years old. Dean's son, you probably know Dean. It's his son's little boy, and he's playing out there. What would happen if this happens when he's there? But this wolf that's here is not afraid of people. He's not afraid. He'll try to off when you get after him and stop and look at you, but he'll go off. But this is how close they come to your house. And if I hadn't been there, I don't know how close he would have come, after that dog, if he'd have went clear in the garage after him or what. But, I've had neighbors on down below that's had wolves a bit down there too. This is not. But this is what happened at my house.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Hello.
Mr. Trejo. And Trejo.
Exactly, a small place between here and Kamado up on the mountain. We've been there for 4 generations. Smells lots of cheese. And lots of changes in 70% years. A month ago, I lived in Yorkie out. We've been battled for 13 years, stayed in the house, let her out in the evenings to go to the bathroom. Our porch is 10 feet. Evidently, the wolves happened to be right there, but she wasn't out there for 2 or 3 minutes. I opened the door to let her back in. She was gone. So right away, of course, I saw wolf John came up and where they drug her off, never found anything. So, they haven't attacked a human yet, but you all have pets. She was my family. And besides that, we've lost cattle over the years and stuff. Pets are a little different. I've hunted and guided for a lot of years. We don't have anywhere near the number or quality of elk that was had in the past. I'm seeing raspberry grassland, peatland, elk numbers and quality. I'm seeing this time of year when they shed their horns, bulls get pretty weak, especially if they don't have the protein, green feed that they don't have right now. The wolves have figured out those bulls are pretty weak, and we're losing lots of bulls to the wolves right now because they figured out they're easy to kill. The hogs is gone way too long. Something else.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Brock Powell.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brock Powell, second generation rancher. But I also have a 15-month-old son. And we've had countless numbers of wolf attacks that have been confirmed, countless numbers of kills that have been confirmed. We've had on our private land a horse attacked, which was confirmed. And we've had a family dog, a small wiener dog that was grabbed off of our porch in the middle of the night that I chased after and was able to save the dog. It had over $500 in vet bills. And now that dog won't go out after dark. But How can you let a 15-month-old son play on your porch when a dog was grabbed off of that same porch? How can you have animals that are supposed to be, they are trying to reintroduce to public land when there's people that live on pieces of private in that public land? It's a very hard thing. And something needs to be done for the safety of our children and of our livestock. Thank you.
Kelly Shillman. Everybody looks at.
All three figured out that.
So my name is Kelly Shillman, and I have a little different story than most that have came and spoke for me. I'm not a cattle rancher. My husband and I moved here about 11 years ago, and we moved here so we could gain property. He's always broken trained horses throughout his life. He's a little bit older than me. And we came back, we got some property here, and we were gonna start with our horses. We brought this horse home when he was 2 years old. He was cantankerous, and he gathered the name Poopy. So his term of endearment name and what people know him by is Poopy. His paper name is Bold Infinity, but he was very cantankerous, yet my husband broke him to be dog gentle for me. He was my horse. My husband worked him with Glenn Griffin on Glenn Griffin's ranch. They worked cows, branded cows. He cut cows. He was a very cowy horse. And then our grandbabies were born. And once our grandbabies were born, he became that horse. We have 3 horses, or we had 3 horses. He was the safe bet to put our grandbabies on as their first horse for them to learn. In January this year, my husband went over to check the horses. We have them on Pam Deratani's train, and the 3 of them are just glued together all the time, and he couldn't find food. So came and got me. We drove out there and we found him. Sean and the USDA came out and they did what they needed to do, which was difficult to watch, but at the same time, I was glad it was done to where they could confirm with no doubt that the wolves killed my horse. That same day, we loaded up our other 2 horses and brought them home. And since we've been home, there's been probably 4 to 6 times since January that they're even scared of my husband and I. And these horses you go outside and call them and they come to you like an animal, like a dog. And they're super skittish. They have scratch marks all over their bodies. They have bite marks all over their bodies. And I'm starting to, has not been confirmed, but I truly believe that it is wolves because the entire ecosystem around me has changed. I've been in that place for 8 years. I get up between 3 and 4 every morning, and the dogs barking. We have neighbors that have lots of dogs, and they always bark. The coyotes yipping. There's always been coyotes all around us, constantly yipping. And then I just am putting it together that the nights where the next day the horses act so terrified, it is stone cold silent outside. It's eerie. The neighbors' dogs aren't even barking. Nothing. There's nothing happening. But you don't see rabbits. You don't see anything around anymore. I have 3 dogs that we bring in at night, and in the mornings when I go out, I take them out, and they usually do what I call their run. They take off for about 20 or 30 minutes every morning and come back. And in the past probably 6 to 8 weeks, they barely go off my front porch. They don't even run our whole property. They do their business and they come straight back up and they walk back inside. So I'm not quiet about my opinion on the wolves. And I can truly honestly say I was this passionate before my horse was killed. because we're supposed to be at the top of the food chain. We're supposed to decide when something's a threat to ourselves, to our animals, to our dog. And we're told we're not allowed to protect our dogs. If they're attacking your dog right in front of you, you're legally not allowed to protect that's your family. He was my family. He was my grandbaby's family. And I truly, truly hope something major is gonna be done about this. And I would like to thank Audrey McQueen, our commissioner, because she has put her heart and soul and beyond an imaginable amount of time into trying to help with this, with the watch.
Misty Workman.
Good morning.
Morning.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Misty Workman. My husband and I, we manage a ranch on the mountain between here and Camado. 54. That's the number of confirmed kills and injuries that our ranch alone has had in the past 5 years. 63. That's the number of cows we haven't found. Cows only. 5. This is the number of bulls that we haven't found. They've just disappeared. It's 122 total head. I mean, we're going to lowball this and go $2,000 a head. That's $244,000 in 5 years. That's, yeah, $50,000 a year. I don't know who can afford that. And don't even get me going on the indirect losses. Calves, abortion rates. I mean, we're lucky to bring in 60%. Lucky. I mean, and that's a pretty good year. These numbers are just from our ranch, but like we're not Nelson. I mean, you just look around the room. Anybody that's doing any kind of ranching, these numbers are pretty much right there on par with everybody. So we're currently surrounded by 5 packs. These are only collared packs. There's one pack that we know is right in the middle of us. We've actually tried to work with Fish and Wildlife and Game and Fish and stuff to try and get some collars put on them. No such luck. We've gotten them on camera several times, but I mean, we're just constantly surrounded by them. You average this 5 to 9 per pack, and I mean, just us right here at our house, we're surrounded by 40 wolves minimum, and I mean, they can't really go up high from where they're at my house because there ain't no water up there. So, you know, that kind of takes out a big chunk of the ranch that would be considered part of this area. But when you start congesting them down just where the waters are, then, I mean, it's so thick. We go out every single day. I don't think that there's been a day that we haven't gone and seen wolf tracks. At least we know that they're there. Just recently, a couple weeks ago, we had a cow killed less than a mile from our house. Uncollared wolves, obviously. There wasn't a collared nothing in the whole area. Our dogs, you know, my closest neighbor is Andy. And how far? We're probably 20 miles apart from each other. You know, I shouldn't have to lock up my dang dogs, but I'd lock up my dogs at night. My little cow dogs wouldn't stand a chance against these things. They're not afraid of humans at all. I mean, I've got countless videos and photos that I have where they might slink off into the trees, but they're not afraid of us. They don't run. They don't care that we're around. We can fire shots off. We can do the hazing thing that they like to claim that works so well, but they just come back. I mean, I've spent nights. Oh, the heifer pasture is terrible. I mean, we spend the night out there a lot of times because they're just, no sooner do you run them out one side, they just circle back around and come right back in. You know, just because they say that a Mexican wolf hasn't killed or attacked a person, why are we waiting until it happens? I mean, why are we waiting until it happens? That's just asinine to me to think about waiting until it happens. We need to do something long before it happens. So we're here today for the commissioners to consider signing a resolution declaring a disaster for the county. And I do urge you guys, please sign this. So when you Google natural disaster, Wikipedia, which is, I know it's not the most, but anyway, you Google that and it defines a natural disaster as a very harmful impact on a society or community after a natural hazard event. A natural disaster can cause loss of life, or damage property. It typically causes economic change. Now, this is normally reserved for things as earthquakes, tornadoes, wildfires. But doesn't that sound like what we're all dealing with these wolves? Harmful impact on society, community, damage to property, all of it. Every single rancher and really community member in this room is feeling exactly that. It is truly a natural disaster. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis Sanders.
Thank you guys for having this. My name's Lewis Sanders. I'm co-owner of the Harriet Ranch up on the Augustine Plains in North Benson County. I've also been lucky to get into that family, and I take a lot of pride working on that ranch. January 17th, I had a confirmed wolf kill in my heifer pasture. Little old baby calf wasn't 24 hours old. January 27th, had another confirmed kill. January 28th, I was at daylight in that heifer pasture checking on my heifers. One of them's about to calve. I went on, left her alone, hoping everything's all right. I come back at 10 o'clock. She still hadn't started. I give her a little bit more time. The wolf people told me they were going to fly that day because they know we're covered up with uncollared wolves. They said they were going to fly and try to collar them, and they would try to get them out of there for me. After 10 o'clock that morning, I went back to headquarters. My brother-in-law that works with me there, he's the other owner of the ranch. He said he had a pipeline leak. So I got the backhoe, we go dig it up, fix the leak. 4 o'clock that afternoon, I go back, another kill. And that was in the time they were supposed to be flying. I never seen a herd. I don't know if they flew or not. They told me they did later on, but they said they didn't see anything. So from 10 to 4, while I was out of that heifer pasture, when they were supposed to be flying it, I had lost another calf. It's just nonsense. I mean, they blatantly lied to us about the numbers. That's obvious. There's way more wolves than they know out. And in order for us to fight them, they need to unhandcuff us and let us protect ourselves and our property. And I'm getting mad just thinking about it, which is nonsense because I don't need to act like that. We got to do this right. We got to keep our cool and get them to understand that we're not just a bunch of hillbillies that don't matter out there. What we're doing is like they've said earlier, we're trying to help feed America. And I take a lot of pride when I shut that tailgate on that truck and they pull away. I have a lot of pride knowing that I sent a good, marketable truckload of calves to America. And these wolves are taking that away from us. It's going to make it, it's hard enough when it's in a drought like this. Our numbers are down because it's so dry. We can't afford a wolf coming in there and taking the rest of it away from us. And the impact it has is more than just that calf they kill. Them heifers probably aren't going to breed back. They're traumatized. They went off a feed. I can't hardly get them to come to the truck to eat no more. Those three won't, I mean, they're messed up. And I mean, the impact is way more than just the kills we hear about. It trickles down effect to everything we do. Our entire livelihood is at stake right now. And I'll be damned they're going to come get my place.
Let's need a hand.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you on this issue. Our family has been fortunate that we have only lost one confirmed calf, but we have a lot of tight-bagged cow. We all know that it's just a matter of time before we have more kills on us from uncollared wolves. I come from a different perspective as my family and I are indigenous people. We are Navajo and Apache. Despite what Hollywood portrays, wolves are evil in the eyes of my people. Wolves take away what the Creator gave us to provide for our families. We are certified Native American livestock producers, and the wolves are taking away our livelihood as well as the neighbors' livelihoods. We have had collared wolves on us and on our neighbors without any notification from U.S. Fish and Wildlife. These wolves were on deeded land. Numerous calls to U.S. Fish and Wildlife were met with silence, and eventually the commission set up a meeting in Dowdle. I was told by U.S. Fish and Wildlife that they are not obligated to tell us when wolves are on deeded land. The last calf we had confirmed was on state land, though. When the wolf program was first initiated, the land ownership for the release was primarily on forest land and very little deeded. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services must readdress the management plan and include mitigation plans for wolves on the different land ownership, such as state lands, BLM, and deeded. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services must address the overwhelming number of uncollared wolves as well. If U.S. Fish and Wildlife chooses to not address these issues, it is my belief that they are abandoning the program and what they are tasked to do at the expense of the American people and the American management. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Nelson Shirley.
I'm Nelson Shirley. I'm a rancher here in Catron County, Apache County, in Arizona. And I think one of the most outrageous things I've heard recently from the news, the KMB4, was Greta Anderson saying that this is all just a bunch of fairy tales, no facts in Catron County. And it's obvious from everything I've heard today and everything I've experienced here in Catron County in the last 10 years with the wolf program, and even before that, is that the environmentalists and wolf advocates' objective is rural cleanliness. They don't want us here. They want all of this country as a playground for the rich. They want a playground for recreation. They want us out of here. When the Forest Service was shooting cattle in 22 and 23, the supervisor of the Gila National Forest, Camille Howe, stated that we want to shoot cattle to get cattle out of the wilderness so it's cattle free. Well, that's against federal law. Federal law says that the Gila National Forest is meant to be grazed by cattle. So that's how outrageous the federal government statements are, as well as the wolf advocate. The other thing that I was shocked about was hearing a spokesman from Center for Biological Diversity, Wild Earth Guardian, and Western Watershed say there's never been a documented attack of a wolf on a person in North America. Well, all you have to do, folks, is get on Wikipedia and look at wolf attacks in North America. And I counted them up last night, a combination of non-fatal and fatal attacks from 1995 to 2005, there's 32. These are documented by God. They are documented by news stations and newspapers. And these are attacks not just in Canada and Alaska, they're attacks in Minnesota, they're attacks in Idaho. And when wolves start attacking, there's a lot of scientific evidence that when you see wolves on your porch, when you have wolves right beside your ranch house, what those wolves are doing is testing a new type of prey. And when they say, well, there hasn't been a wolf that's actually killed or injured a child yet, like you said a while ago, what are we waiting for? And, you know, where wolves don't get shot, like in places like India where people don't have firearms, wolves come in and carry their children off on a regular basis. And that's almost like we are. We've got firearms, but we aren't allowed to use them. I mean, give you an example. Wyoming, it's got 327 wolves right now. That's the official count. We got 286, almost the same. But in Wyoming, I was talking to Karen Bud Fallon's daughter, my lawyer, the other day, and she said, you don't ever see a wolf in broad daylight in Wyoming because they get shot if they show their face. If they're around the town, they get shot, which is how it ought to be. You know, we're the top of the food chain. We're the people that are producing food and fiber for this nation. And personally, if the wolves want to stay out there in the wilderness away from my cattle and my ranch families, I'm okay with it. But the Fish and Wildlife Service has created this problem by making it so that no wolves get shot. And if you're out there range riding, you're out there riding around on your pasture and you see wolves and they don't even show any fear, all you're doing is making them more habituated. All of their hazing program, those wolves aren't the least bit afraid. About a month ago, I emptied a 45 wolf out of the window of my truck, about deafened me, but that wolf was not terribly alarmed. It wasn't until I hit some gravel that he actually kind of walked off. So the whole idea that you can just use non-lethal to keep wolves away from your cattle, wolves away from your children, is complete nonsense. And in the last 5 years in New Mexico, there's only been one wolf shot by Fish and Wildlife. And that was a 13-year-old Mangus male, been on Misty in my outfit, they den on us, and that wolf probably killed 70 head of livestock in his life. And he was so old he was shooting blanks, so Fish and Wildlife says, well, let's just get rid of it. Get a younger wolf in there. So that's how, well, if you cannot keep wolves afraid of people if you don't kill them now and then. And we don't have the right to do it. And by God, we're going to have to get the right to do it or make them do it, one of the two. And the other thing I was going to say about our friends, the wolf advocates and Wild Earth Guardians and Center for Biological Diversity, they say, well, you need to keep your children in the house and your dogs in the house, and you need to put a fence around your schoolyard. Well, you know what? To graze our cattle, we can't put them in a barn at night. And by God, we're not going to put our children in a cage.
Amen.
You know, we got 7 and 8-year-old kids on my outfits that are out helping their parents do ranch work, and they're out there miles from their parents unsupervised. You know, how are they supposed to do their job if they're going to be inside the house? The other thing that I mentioned earlier, but it's especially irritating, is this whole idea, yeah, maybe wolves right here in Catron County haven't killed a kid yet, but all you have to do is do a Google search for Coyote Huntington Beach, and you can watch a video of a coyote attacking a toddler sitting right behind his or her mother right there on the beach, right there in California. And why is that happening? Because they won't leave lethal control on coyotes. Let them run wild through those towns. So they're starting to attack and try to kill children. And that's a coyote. You don't think a wolf with that opportunity would do the same thing? Of course they would. I guess I'd like to finish this by just saying our dear friend Jess Carey, who's no longer with us, once said to me, he said, you know, Nelson, the wolf advocates are never going to believe that a wolf is responsible for a livestock kill unless you get a confession out of a wolf. And I think that, you know, says it all. And I'd like to finish. Somebody else earlier said, you know, the most fundamental right that people ought to have, especially in this country, is the right to protect your property and your life. By God, that is a fundamental human right. And we're going to have to, through our law enforcement officials here, we're going to have to force the Fish and Wildlife Service to start doing the right thing by shooting wolves and making them afraid of us again, or we're going to have to do it.
Thank you. Okay, we'd just like to ask John Grant from Wildlife Services is on Zoom, and invite Mr. Grant if you'd like to say anything. Mr. Grant, are you there? Yes, sir. I think it's gone now. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
Yeah, my name is John Grant, for Mexico program for the Wildlife Services. Just wanted to state that, we're part of the IFP, group, but, our main part is with, livestock jeopardization investigation. As part of that, we have a full-time livestock jeopardization investigator. I think it's the only one in the whole United States that's a full-time investigator. Early on, when I became state director, parents that there was hiring of livestock deprivation by wolves in Catherine County, so we hired a full-time investigator with the Catherine County audit. And also we do we try to do non-lethal if we can. Right now, all three non-lethal personnel are they took the deferred resignation program that's been offered by the USDA, so we don't have any non-lethal that can go out and do non-lethal services right now. But that's about all we as far as the wolves in Patrick County. That's what we do. Is there anything else you wanted me to address?
No, sir. We're just inviting you to have any comment on anything that's been said, and we appreciate you for having somebody that can help confirm the kills for us countywide. So thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Mike Sloan is also on with the New Mexico Game and Fish. We'd like to ask Mr. Sloan if he has any comment.
Shows that I don't have specific comment. If there are any questions you might have.
All right. We take a few questions. Mr. Sloan, so at least in our data, you guys are saying that there's 162 wolves in Catherine County? Is that right?
I remember from the press release on the count recently conducted by the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Okay. I think we have a room full of people here that might disagree. But, so, sir, what would the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish do to mitigate the impact of New Mexican wolves on Catherine County residents?
Mr. John, Shares, we have 3 full-time staff working on the wolf program, doing everything from the hazing animals to traffic translocating, trying to put collars on animals, make sure we have as we can. We also have our officers in the area that do much of the same work. We do the missionary feeding, coordinate responses with the Fish and Wildlife Service, with the Wildlife Services. We were paying for a range rider through the Wildlife Services. That person, I guess, took the early retirement. So there's a variety of folks working in the area. A lot of work to try to reduce conflict.
So would Mr. Sloan, is the New Mexico Game and Fish, are they going to take over from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services of putting wolves or of introducing cross foster?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we have always partnered with the Fish and Wildlife Service to undertake that work as part of the recovery program, so we'll continue to do that.
Okay.
Who makes the final decision?
on number of cross-fosters.
Did you hear that, Mr. Sloan? Who makes the final decision on the number of cross fosters and where they will be placed? Because I know that this last year, Catherine County pretty much got all of them.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the number of cross fosters that get put out depend on the number of dens that line up with zoos and other places that have captive breeding programs. So when those programs line up and we have the opportunity to put wolves into dens, do that. And the purpose of cross fostering, as you probably know, is to try to improve the genetics of the wolves on the landscape. That's one of the recovery criteria, and we're almost to meeting that criteria. So we need to continue to do that, to be able to check that box and get to the point where we can potentially, I don't know how long into the future, but hopefully not 5 to 10 years, be able to delist or downlist the threatened, more opportunities for state management, more opportunities for different options than we have now.
Right. Okay, so one last question, Mr. Sloan, and then if you have any additional comment. So, when the governor signs this emergency declaration, will you support the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish going into Catron County and helping out?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I guess that I don't know what the declaration says specifically. I don't know what the governor's position will be on it. We hesitate to speculate on what our reaction would be about it.
Okay. Is there any additional comment or anything that you would have for anybody here?
I think we all understand. We're working hard to try to address that. We'll continue, so we continue to have staff dedicated to working on it. I have heard a couple of times, I think, that there's belief that you can't do anything if you see an animal out one of your animals, and I don't believe that's correct. But other than that, I don't have any other comments.
Okay. Well, we thank you, and we thank you for joining on Zoom, sir, and we hope that you understand that this is a reality for us who live here in Catron County. All right, we'll just ask Mr. Brady McGee, if you're on Zoom, if you have any comments, sir.
I'm trying to get on now. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to switch my camera over right click fix so that you will see me. I'm not really sure how to do that. I don't Zoom very much.
It's all right. We can just McGee.
I think I got it. So I'm Brady McGee. I'm the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services Mexican Wolf Recovery Coordinator. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. But I will say that I think there's been some confounding issues here in regards to some of the compensation lines of money. I do fully support Catron County trying to get funds and money to be able to hire range riders and do things on their own. I fully support that. What we've seen in the last 6 years, since 2019, we as an interagency building have been putting money on the ground for range riders and been getting people out there. And we've seen a marked decrease in the overall number of depredations since 2019. And we saw a considerable decrease last year. In 2024, there was approximately 100 total depredations in New Mexico and Arizona. 77 of those occurred in New Mexico. This year, in 2025, as of the end of March, there were 34 confirmed depredations in New Mexico, which is pretty similar to what was last year. There was, at the end of March last year there was 30 confirmed every day. And so it's really, not that far off. But I will say that I do believe that range riders and people on the ground are making a difference. Wolves, yes, they are going to be cows, but there's compensation programs in place. The Fish and Wildlife Service handed out $190,000 to the New Mexico County Loss Authority. State legislation handed out $1.5 million that's supposed to be distributed over 3 years. Ranchers, 7 or 8 ranchers, then Catherine County got over $600,000 on that program. So in total, there was about $1.3 million available for Catherine County, not the county like itself, but for ranchers in the county to pay and offset some of the compensation. I think what I originally started off saying was the compounding issue are that the county, the county is not itself getting the money, but it's part of the county loss authority is distributing that money out. But if there was a way for the county to get some additional funds and be able to hire range riders, trappers, other things that they could do, I fully support that. I hope that, we can get to that point. I fully recognize there are more wolves on the ground out there right now. There are more incidences with humans and people across the board simply because there's more of them out there. And so I want to try to find ways to work with people. In fact, I came to a Catherine County Commission meeting last June in person, brought several of my folks, several of the other NRA people. We handed out a sheet of paper, over 100 pieces of paper saying, here's all the phone numbers, here's who you can call. If you have an incident, if you see something, give us a call, let us know. And so I continue to encourage that, and I want to continue to work with y'all on reducing all the conflicts that are going on there in Catherine County. So with that, I'll take any questions you got.
Okay, just a few quick questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Randy, this is Nelson. When is the Fish and Wildlife going to start issuing field permits to ranchers here in Catherine County so we can protect our children and our livestock? I think when you were here this last summer, there were a lot of ranchers asked about that. And like I said a little while ago, there's only been one wolf killed in over 5 years here in Catherine County. And they've been killing at least one wolf a year over in Arizona in Apache County. So when are things going to change here?
Can you hear that, Mr. McGee?
I think I heard most of it, yes, sir. When we issue lethal permits to kill wolves, it's pretty much done whenever we've exhausted all our resources and done everything we can on the ground to prevent further depredation. So if there's an instance where depredation is starting to occur, and we will make every effort that we can to prevent further depredation. And after we've exhausted several weeks of effort, every effort that we could put into it, and those predations are continuing, that's when we will issue those orders. And so in the last few years, I think with more and more people on the ground out there doing range riding, hazing, and putting forth that effort, we have seen a difference. And it is making a difference. I think we had 290 instances last year where we went out and did hazing operations. And so when basically they're working. And when they don't work, that's when we'll issue a legal.
Thanks.
7 years
Yeah.
now.
We'll have one more question, then we need to move on.
I understand how many collared wolves there is in Catherine County. Can you give me your best wag on how many uncollared wolves there is?
count, our wolf counts are a minimum count. So we're 100% we know 100% that we have at least a minimum of that many wolves. What we don't know is the population. And the larger the population goes, the harder or less accurate it when you're trying to estimate uncollared wolves and wolves that are above that count. So we don't have a good estimate above that. And there's no scientific way of estimating that with any accuracy right now. We are working with researchers trying to develop a way to determine that, but it's going to take another year or two before we ever come up with anything that has any sort of reliability.
You seem like a smart guy. Do you have a wild ass guess on how many there might be?
I don't.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, and Mr. McGee, just so the record state, we thank you and thank you for what you try to do. Pretty much all of us here know that most of the kills occur between 12 at midnight and 6 in the morning, usually when range riders aren't out there, when it's below freezing. And then we're grateful that you did acknowledge that that was the minimum number, because every single person in here knows that we have a lot more wolves than is being reported. And to go along with that, we're going to turn the time to Sean Mingus now, because we're grateful for all the hard work that everybody has put into establishing the CLLA so that people can get confirmed can get reimbursed for a confirmed kill. But we want the public to understand that that's just the tip of the iceberg. So when you see an iceberg, you only see the little tips. And that's the only thing that is being compensated for. We're not being compensated for, if there was one kill that you went out there and found, you're dealing with thousands of acres. Our estimates right now is that it's generally a 1 to 5 ratio. So if you found one, there's 5 that you didn't find. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mingus.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Sean Mingus. I'm the Catron County Depredation Investigator. I've been in this capacity about the last 2 years, since Jess Carey. And I will say there was no one better than Jess Carey. I've got about 30 years background in law enforcement, all but 6 months of it in the county. I want to thank you for doing this. It's been a lot of years. We've been through a lot, the citizens of this county, and I want to thank every one of you for being here. And you folks from out of the state even that are coming over here and have an interest in attending this. This is the best turnout I've seen since the very first meeting that we had regarding this some 28 years ago, I think it was, up here in this community center up on the mesa. And the folks here have been through a lot in this time. What I do currently, my responsibilities are, if you have a depredation or you suspect you have a depredation, you find a dead cow or calf or horse, sometimes it's a pet, you call us, myself, Wildlife Services, Scott McDonald was the investigator, their lead investigator, and we work together. And what we do is we set up a time, we go out to your place, and we investigate the scene. Sometimes you'll find a fight scene, it's very clear. Sometimes you don't find a fight scene. No two are the same. Sometimes it's a brutal mess. Sometimes it's not. There are times when an animal would be laying there and you walk up to it and you don't even know right off that it was an attack. But as we clip them, we take clippers and we clip the hair off of them, then that reveals the evidence, the canine spreads, the rape marks. There are times when it's a brutal mess and just you know, a little bit of it's eaten on, or it could be half of it's gone, or most of it's gone. A lot of it kind of depends on how soon we get there, how soon it's gone. I have seen some of them that were entirely consumed just in the night from when it happened. And I've seen others that weren't fed on at all. And it's a shame that we have to put up with this. But since January 1st of 24, we've had 96 confirmed wolf kills, 29 probable, and then quite a few unknowns. Now, we also occasionally will have a bear or lion. On the little calves, we'll find coyote kills. I think we've had a few already this year, especially during calving season. We'll have some coyote problems as well. At the current market value of $2,850 per head on a cow, what we've lost since January 1st of last year is about 356,250 that we know of. Now, a lot of our ranchers, most of our ranchers aren't going to find all your kills. You're gonna, when you do find the remains, it might just be some bones, dried out hide, some bones, very little flesh. So that's a big problem. And a lot of these ranches are scattered throughout really rigorous or rough country. So you're not always going to find what happened to them. You heard earlier how quite a few of them were, people find they've either got missing or unaccounted for animals. That's become more and more common. Wildlife Services, they do a really fine job of they send that, Mr. McDonald will send that report in to his supervisors. It goes on up the chain and it comes back. And generally it's consistent with what our findings are. And if you choose to put in for reimbursement, then we now have in place our CLOA, and they've done a really good job of getting folks reimbursed. And it's kind of work in progress, but it's getting better all the time. Then on the ones that are missing or unaccounted for, the livestock indemnity program does kick in, but it doesn't pay. And this is kind of exclusive to this area. I know other states aren't doing this, but it does not pay a full replacement value of what you've lost. However, just for this year, or for 2024, there have been with only 15 applicants, there were 307 cows missing, dead, or unaccounted for, 31 bulls, and 1,185 calves. So if these producers could have took those calves and weaned them and shipped them to Feed America, there have been 1,185 more potentially that could have gone to the market. And anyway, it's a real problem. But what we're here for, I'd say the number one reason is these folks are our future, these children, the safety for them. the safety of all of us, of our elderly. I know a lot of folks over the years that like to get out and walk these little roads, get some exercise. A lot of them are older folks, elderly folks. And I don't see that anymore, not near as much because concern for wolves. And for the past year, next month it'll be a year, we've realized that there's a pack of wolves coming into reserve. And we've pled for Fish and Wildlife to help us. And what we're told is that, well, they really don't have a track record, otherwise no kills on them. And within 3 miles of reserve, for 24, there were 3 kills and an injury that every one of them probably should have gone to that pack. Since then, there was a horse deal. You just saw that earlier. We get reports and we get calls and we know, for example, in Quemado, just in the last 2 years I've done this, we've done several depredation investigations just within sight of town. So they're there. We've known them there. Fish and Wildlife knows they're there. Recently, this year, just off of Highway 36, they identified a pack that was unknown, 6 grown wolves. And that's what we're finding is that there are numerous uncollared wolves all over this place. And this year, we have seen more and handled more depredation investigations to the north end of the county than ever before. The Gwynn Ranch, right out on the plains, right on the county line. I think we've been there 5 times this year. And most of those have been, we've had some coyote, but there's been some, definitely some wolf confirmations out there. And the telemetry shows that the wolves are in there. And we've had them around Pytown for the last 2 years. We've had quite a few around Pytown. Most recently, out on this young man's ranch, the 6 wolves that I just spoke about, were in that area and started killing on that ranch. Gavel, Pytown, Quemado, Luna, right in the middle of town. They're hazing wolves in the middle of the day out of town. There are little kids over there too. You just heard about the wolf right here in reserve that's uncollared, that's been seen multiple times. We've had several down in the south end of the county, and it continues. I can tell you I've gone from one end of the county to the other. I think last year we did one, we had 6 calls in one day, and most of those were confirmed wolf. I personally have been involved in investigating two horses that were depredations and 1 horse injury. But since that time, I've realized that in talking to a lot of the ranchers, they've had injured horses and probably didn't realize that they had wolf attacks on those horses. The dog we heard about earlier from Mr. Powell, fortunately, and I'm surprised they didn't. It wasn't that they didn't kill it. But I went ahead, when he showed me this dog, I felt like I needed to clip it, so I did, and I measured it with the calipers, and it was definitely, there were canine bites on that little dog's throat. You heard from Mr. Correjo, and they lost their dog. That yard, when I got over there the next morning, was covered in wolf tracks. completely covered. And he did mention that he had another dog there. My belief is that they were probably trying to catch it, and he was just a pup too. Probably couldn't catch it. He was outside, but this little dog, he didn't even know what happened, I'm sure. They grabbed it and took off, and we saw the tracks going under the fence and where they took off out of there. But he also has a milk cow. Last year, wolves came in, killed the cow right out of his pen. Right out of the pen the cow was in. Right at the house. The neighbor has had numerous confirmed wolf kills right there in the field, right there by Gray Hope Ranch. And it goes on and on and on, but what this is costing, and fortunately we get a little bit of money to mitigate some of this, it's never going to be enough. But another aspect of this is, what does it cost you as a rancher? You spend hours of the night out checking the cattle, or you have to get somebody else to come help you and do it. So what it truly costs you isn't just the loss of the cow, the horse, the dog. It's all those hours that you don't get to sleep and get your rest, and the stress it causes you. I have not been out to not one ranch, and this was even before I was doing this as a law enforcement officer. The heartache you witness, and I know a lot of you, I've been there with you, and you just sit over your loss and what's happened to you. And, I commend you, Commission, for doing this. I think that what we're forced to do is, and you're accurate in this, is that we do need more people. We need more help. Federal government's not going to give it to us. I think the state does what they can, but until they completely take this over, I don't really think that's going to be a whole lot more. My belief is no more wolves. We don't need more cross-fostered wolves. With 27 last year. Tapped out. Catron County is tapped out. Our neighbors are getting there. Folks that don't want their names mentioned, I understand that, but I've been shown pictures, hundreds of pictures from some of our neighbors. They have wolves all over them in other counties. I see all of our neighbors affected by this. This introduction area, it goes all the way across the state of New Mexico both ways, state of Arizona. But we have the majority of them right here. And that I didn't understand. So what we're talking about, and what I believe that would help, is approximately 10 additional people on the ground. And if Catron County has to do that, then we'll do it. We've got a commission that supports it. They're backed up against the wall here. We need help. And so it costs a lot of money, probably roughly $100,000, just a little over $100,000. But per person, figuring equipment, pay somebody, and so on. But anyway, I will leave it at that, and thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay. Now we'll turn the time over to our county manager.
So,
This is Deborah Muller.
Deb Muller, I do have, so I'm wearing two hats. before you. So right now I have my county manager, interim county manager, Helen. So these are the finance aspect of the position. So currently we have to pay Sean overtime because he's one person going to a lot of calls, right? So that is equating to about $103,000 a year. Okay, that is not reimbursed money. So the cost of 10 people with equipment, we're going to assume that there won't be as much overtime because now we have a more substantial staff. It's going to be $797,000 a year to Catherine County. So, or paid by Catherine County. So, to adequately staff, so as to address the current impact, the county would need $907,000 a year. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, my other hat, CLLA, okay, County Livestock Loss Authority. So a lot of you I've met in the limited time I've been here. So the county, Catherine County was just made the fiscal agent, and we took that away from Sierra County, or it was given to us to hopefully fix some of the issues of the lack of response that many of you have received. So I was hired as that administrator in the fall. Since then, we've been successful on a number of fronts in helping straighten out the operation. As soon as the fiscal agent is completely transferred, so NMDA has to do some paperwork issues, then we'll have access to that money to get. A lot of people have submitted claims to us that we have not been able to process yet because we're waiting for NMDA to sign off on that money transfer. Okay, so as soon as that occurs, we should be able to send out payments in about 10 to 14 days. And I know a lot of people were going 6, 8 months, if ever, right? So the other thing, we recently closed the conflict avoidance application period. A lot of you guys in here applied for that. I do thank you because a lot of how we get through the money, we have to pay out that conflict avoidance. So we hope to be processing those payments probably, I would say, within 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. Let's see. We have the indirect damages will be following closely behind that. That application period ends in May. We've made progress, but the livestock producers are by no means being made whole because you still have those missing cattle, right? We can only do those ones that are basically paying on the confirmed depredations. So we need to find out what we can do for that, kind of improve that, the cost of the missing cattle to you guys. The indirect damages will pay for some of the, to compensate you for some of your losses, but even that will be minimal to what you're actually experiencing. We don't have the money available to pay all the damages to livestock producers from Mexican wolf. So even as the wolf numbers have going up, the federal money is going down. So we're working out of 23 monies. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nelson. I believe we're in 23 monies. That was $150,000 of federal grant money. The next monies that we're working out of is $111,000. So the money is going down what they're putting in the pot. Okay, so that's the money that pays for the depredations and the what would they call the prevention. So but that's about it. And just a couple cleanup items on the table here are some W-9s. When Catherine County takes over the fiscal agency, all of you guys that have been paid by Sierra County, the W-9s do not transfer to Catherine. I need you guys to fill out W-9s to speed up the payment process, okay? And then there's also some applications for depredations on there also if you want that. All the information is also on the CLLA website. So that's a new change. So, but my phone number's on there also, so call me if you have depredations, the process to make sure that you're getting paid for them.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Muller. All right, we'll hear from Mr. Tom Patterson, who is president of the Cattle Growers Association. Mr. Patterson, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Tom Patterson. My brother John and I grew up helping our dad, Alec Patterson, run cattle on the Center Fire allotment north of Luna. 60 years later, I now live out on the spurs, northeast of Luna, along Center Fire Creek. I run cattle from the east side of Luna to the state line, along the state line in Arizona and west of Alma. As a kid who spent a lot of time in the woods working cattle, I can tell you I rarely saw dead cattle. Now, it's all too common. The primary difference from 60 years ago that explains the change is that now we have Mexican wolves. 60 years ago, there was another problem we didn't worry about. We didn't worry about little kids playing outside. I was one of them. Now, as we've heard, parents have to stay vigilant to protect their children or their grandchildren from wolves. That's our case. When our grandson Walker comes to visit, he'll want to play just off our kitchen deck. And that's about 100 yards where wolves killed one of my yearling steers in February. When Walker comes next time, we'll have to be ever more cautious. When his parents want to go hike in the woods, we'll make sure they can carry a 38 and bear spray just in case. My dad, Alec, passed away in 2018. I'm glad he didn't have to see how wolves are now not just ravaging our cattle, but terrorizing our communities. It would have broken his heart. My dad wouldn't have hesitated. He'd have started shooting. In his 90s, what could they do? For my part, however, I've worked hard individually and through the New Mexico Cattle Growers Association, where I'm now the president-elect, to educate on a state level our state legislators, the New Mexico Game Commission, the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish, the New Mexico Department of Agriculture. And on our federal levels, I've worked to educate our congressmen, their staff, congressional committee staff, the Forest Service, the Fish and Wildlife Service, Wildlife Services, the Farm Service Administration, and the Secretaries of Agriculture and Interior about the impact of Mexican wolf recovery on us individually, on our livestock operations, and on the people in our county. I've been to countless meetings. I've written letters. I've drafted testimony. I've lobbied extensively. I've testified in Congress. I haven't done it alone by any means. Many of you have done the same. But I ask, has working the administrative and legislative levers of our government made one bit of difference so far? Have we moved the needle one bit about the problem with wolves? With one exception, I'd submit to you that the answer, sadly, is no. The exception is that, working with the New Mexico Department of Agriculture, we did eliminate the Mexican Wolf Livestock Coexistence Council. We now have the County Livestock Loss Authority. No question, it had a rocky patch last year, but we've now hired an administrator. She works out of reserve. We've transferred the fiscal agent of the CLA to Catron County so it can start actually writing checks, depredations on a timely basis. We're about to start paying for conflict avoidance. Later this spring, we'll start paying damages towards indirect damages. Last year, cattle growers and the CLA lobbied for, and we received $1.5 million from the state legislature to pay for those damages over the course of 3 years. That's nowhere close to the $9 million we asked for, but at least it's a start. And we beat back in an investigation from the State Ethics Commission to having ranchers, Ms. McQueen, Mr. Shirley, and myself, serve on the board because we actually know something about wolf behavior. But even that one bright spot with the CLA has made no difference in terms of the number of wolves we have on the ground or the terror the absolute terror they cause our people. Unlike folks who live elsewhere in the country, for the people in this room, wolves are not some romanticized concept. For us, we don't just see wolves on a TV dog food commercial. For those of us on the ground, they're a very real daily threat. I've told you about my grandson, Walker. On my private land and my grazing allotment, I routinely find cattle and wildlife they've killed. The dead cattle I find probably less than 20% of the livestock they kill that I don't find, therefore I don't qualify to get paid for. Right now I'm trying to figure out if I bring my cattle back to Luna in May to feed the wolves or just to sell them. My dog Sadie, as many of you know, goes to a lot of meetings with me because I can't leave her alone at the ranch for fear the wolves will kill her. I can't let her run alongside my ATV when I'm putting out salt and protein to the cattle because we might encounter wolves. When a wolf was caught in a coyote trap on my private property last month, the Fish and Wildlife Service employee who testified here earlier this morning threatened me with jail and a fine if I didn't allow them to come get it. They did, and then they released it somewhere close to Luna. Why release it? Because the wolf facilities are full. They have no more capacity in their wolf facilities. They're going to be releasing the wolves on the landscape, on us. My experience isn't unique. A week ago, I met Sean Mingus on the road. He'd been investigating a wolf kill for Patty and Dennis Swap down the valley for us. He confirmed it. Cindy Cook, who runs food banks, told me recently that as she stepped out of her house one day this winter, she saw a wolf 10 feet away from her with one of her chickens in its mouth. Taylor McQueen lost her barrel horse Pickles to wolf. We heard reports last week that the autopsy report came back on an 82-year-old wolf lady in Colorado who died late last year. Cause of death? Wolves. These wolves have no natural predators. We can't shoot them unless they're in the act of attacking us. We risk jail and fines. We can't shoot them when they're attacking our cattle if our cattle are out on public lands, which is where they primarily are. As a result, they become habituated to humans, which is why they're roaming in our backyards. It's why earlier this week, one trotted right up alongside an SUV that had pulled off the road on the 180 there at Solis Pass on the way to Alma. The situation is not tolerable, and it's getting worse. We no longer have just a crisis with wolves killing our livestock. They don't allow anyone to change the message. We have a public safety crisis because wolves are threatening our people. The answer does not rest with listening to the people who prance around in wolf costumes and carry signs promoting wolves. The answer isn't going to come from listening to the people in agencies like the Fish and Wildlife Service who simply changed the rules, which they did last fall, when wolf statistics undermined their arguments in favor of wolves. None of it is going to be here when wolves kill or injure one of our most vulnerable citizens. What can be done? What can be done to reduce the number of wolves in our county? What can be done to make them fear humans so they aren't stalking our boys and girls and showing up on the front porch of our elders? We've been compiling a list of what can be done for a number of years. Kelly's putting it up on the screen right now. There are immediate actions we can be taking with respect to the Mexican wolf. They immediately can stop introducing or reintroducing wolves into Catherine County. No more cross-fostering. They can provide Wildlife Service depredation officers with a number of wolves in each pack so they know. They can provide depredation officers with cluster information so they can track depredations efficiently. They can assign responsibility to wildlife services to make depredation assignments, not to the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish, in whom we have very little confidence. They can collar every wolf. They need to get an accurate estimate of actual numbers. The Fish and Wildlife Service employee who testified here this morning sat in my kitchen and told me that when they tell you what the minimum number of wolves is, they figure it's underestimated by at least 10%. At least 10% of a minimum number. If you gross that number up, we're closer to 318 wolves in Arizona and New Mexico, of which we estimate 60% of those wolves are in New Mexico, and of those 60%, 90% are in Catron County. Till further notice, Fish and Wildlife Service should authorize lethal removals by wildlife services and issue permits to ranchers to kill Mexican wolves on private property and public lands. And yes, there are personnel changes that need to be made with the agencies that are responsible for managing the wolves, because we need a measure of protection for Catron County citizens, our pets, and our livestock. Administrative action is to take longer term. Delist, defund, and delink the Mexican wolf. Revoke the evidentiary standard that they switched to last fall to make it harder to prove a confirmed depredation. Revoke SOP 26.1, under which they refuse to give ranchers location information on wolves so we can go out and find depredations. Provide in the Interior Department's budget for the Farm Bill adequate funding, prompt payment of confirmed and probable depredations, and for indirect damages. Provide Catron County, with the manpower, equipment, and materials to protect our citizens and our livestock from wolves. That's people, that's equipment, that's material. And to the extent payments for livestock depredation are made through the LIP, through the Livestock Indemnity Program, it's administered by the Farm Services Administration, require that livestock values reflect current livestock valuations in the affected area of the livestock being killed or injured. As the chairman recognized, right now they're paying about a quarter of market value. These are lists of what can be done immediately and what can be done longer term. It'll cost money we don't have. But maybe the federal government should redirect some of the $5 million a year they spend to recover Mexican wolves. Redirect that to the counties so we can deal with the disaster they've created. Commissioners, thank you. This isn't the first time you've devoted a meeting to wolves. This isn't the first time you've tried to educate the people who are in a position to help us make a difference. But unfortunately, none of that has worked. The problem is no longer confined to a livestock emergency. It has become a real and present threat to our people. Now it's time to meet reality head on and admit that we have a public safety disaster in our county. As Misty Workman went through the criteria, we meet every single criterion. I ask that you take that list of action items and please use your good offices to implement it.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. We appreciate all that you do. We'll now have Mr. Hayden Forward speak to us.
This meeting's going on long, and I certainly appreciate everybody's patience. I'm going to be very short, but I wanted everyone to know that in the research that I've been doing, I've come across some interesting statistics that I'm looking forward to sharing with some of the wolf advocates and some of the wildlife advocates that are out there. I enjoy history, and I know that Yellowstone Park has a lot of history with the wolves. And in fact, the wolf packs in Yellowstone Park are by far the most studied wolves in the nation, right? When I was reviewing what's happened in Yellowstone to their elk herds, I saw similarities with what's happening here in Catron County that I want to share with y'all. Wolf packs, or number of wolves in Yellowstone, 124, 11 packs. And by the way, this information comes from the Department of Interior and the National Park Service. It also comes from our Fish and Wildlife Services and from what is now the Department of Wildlife. Okay, number of wolves, 124, 11 packs. In Catron County, 162 wolves, 43 packs. Yellowstone National Park, the area that the wolves are in, approximately 2,200,000. In Catron County, the area that wolves are in, approximately 2,200,000. This is interesting. The elk population in Yellowstone in 1995 was 17,000. By the winter of 2024, by the way, they introduced wolves in Yellowstone in 95. By the winter of 2004, the count decreased to 8,335. Some estimates suggest that the decrease was down to 4,000. That's a decrease of somewhere between 49 and 76% of the elk population in Yellowstone. Now, look at Catron County. Remember, with all our similarities, in 2013, our elk herd was similar. We were at 8,600. By the winter of 2022, our count didn't decrease, our count increased to 27,000. This is coming from the Department of New Mexico Game and Fish. And it's all in the lesser and greater Gila forest where the wolves primarily are. That is a increase of 43% of our elk population. Now you look at wolves, they're going to consume in Yellowstone between 16 and 22 elk per wolf annually. Mexican wolf, a little bit smaller, they're going to consume between 3 and 11 elk annually. Here's where it gets interesting. Our elk herd is increasing. The number of elk that should be eaten per year are between 519 and 1,900. Right? Let's just average it and say 1,500. Our elk herd is increasing. What are the wolves doing? They're eating the cattle. Right? You go to farm services and you ask them how many cattle have they received applications for reimbursement of loss. This is not a coincidence. 1,500. They are eating the cattle. They are not eating our elk. Elk in Yellowstone will have an average success rate of between 5 and 20%. Or I'm sorry, wolves will have a success rate of between 5 and 20% in killing an elk. Same thing here in Catron County, but they have an 85% chance of killing the cattle and killing the calves. Their pups are being trained to go after the more successful, easy kill. The numbers are right there. 1,500 depredations that we're receiving applications for. And that is what the number of wolves we have in Catron County need to sustain themselves. So I had a whole list of mitigation. Mr. Tom Patterson did a wonderful job on stating what the mitigation needs to be. The truth is our fight is in DC. Our fight's in Washington, not so much here with New Mexico Game and Fish. And all of our mitigation efforts, we are going to take the DC. So there's one other thing that I'd like to point out. They talk about depredations decreasing. It was all I could do to not stand up and laugh when I heard Fish and Wildlife say the depredations are decreasing. But in Yellowstone, where they have teams of scientists studying the wolves, following the packs, those wolves kill 2,356 elk annually. This is average numbers. You want to know what their confirmed depredations are? 134. That's what they find, or 134. You take a look at the confirmed depredations that I got, the numbers from APHIS. Now remember, we've got applications, 1,534 applications for missing cattle depredations. You want to know what APHIS's confirmed depredations are here in Catron County? We've talked a little bit about it, 125. That goes right along with what's happening in Yellowstone. You cannot confirm all the depredations. It's impossible. The only way to figure out what's happening is to count what you have in the beginning of the year and count what you have at the end of the year. That's what we need to do. And the fact that they're claiming we're getting federal money for all of our depredations, it's already been pointed out we are not getting market value for depredations. I was very conservative, and on that 1,534 applications, market value would be over $2.2 million. Yet the wolf advocates are bragging that we got $600,000 federal money to replace the depredations. That's 1/4 of what we should have got or received. I came from the public sector. If our product that we were selling to the marketplace, we were getting 1/4 of its value, you know what would be in our future? Bankruptcy. Absolute bankruptcy. What the federal government is doing to us is essentially waterboarding. They're giving us just enough air to think that we're not really drowning, right? But we are. We're drowning. We need the money to replace our losses. That's absolutely critical. And if we don't do that, we're going to lose our cattle industry. We're going to lose our heritage. And what happens after that? We're going to start losing our elk herds, just like is happening in Yellowstone. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars of lost revenue to the state of New Mexico. So federal assistance and a state of emergency, in my opinion, is critical. Absolutely critical. We need to quit being waterboarded by those saying that the program is working, because it's not. The tail is wagging the dog, and we are all suffering from it. So I appreciate everybody being here, and I appreciate everybody listening to the facts of what's really happening here. And I pray that you can use some of these numbers when you're talking to the wolf advocates in letting them know that the program is out of control. We need to take control of it. All right. Thank you.
Now we'll have Mrs. Gail Armstrong talk with us. This is our representative. Thank you, Gail, for being here.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you guys. You know, doing this is not an easy thing to do. This is our way of life. What we live every single day in Catron, I represent Catron, Socorro, Sierra, and Valencia County. I live on Montosa Ranch, just on the other side of Catron County. We run cattle in Socorro and Catron County. I was raised in Dowdle. graduated from Camaro. My classmate here and yonder and yonder and yonder.
Eagle.
Yeah, Camaro Eagle. Anyway, when our way of life is threatened, we stand up and we say, no, you're not going to do that to us. But they won't listen. We've tried and tried and tried. For how many years have we tried to educate my peers in the legislature about what happens in where we live and why we live where we live and choose to do what we do? And they don't listen. So a couple years ago, Tom Patterson and Audrey and others came to me and said, we need money. We need money for the CLLA. So I said, okay, I'll fight for it. So when that budget left the House, there was $5 million in that budget for the CLLA. I busted my butt to get that money in there. And guess whose money it is? It's your guys' money. It's all the taxpayer money. The government doesn't make money, they take money. And so it's all your money that we said, oh yeah, this is a great idea, let's give it back to you. Well, we had to try to do something, so we had $5 million in there. It went over to the Senate. You can thank George Munoz for cutting it down to 1.5 million. Senator George Munoz is the one who cut the money. He took that money and used it someplace else. It's his prerogative. He's the chairman of the Finance Committee. So on the House side, we got the money. On the Senate side, they took some away. But we're going to go back and we're going to ask for more of your own taxpayer money to help mitigate this problem. Because what's happening at the federal level is not working. It takes too long. It's too painful. Thank God for Sean, who knows what the heck he's doing, but there's a lot of them out there that don't. We want to share the land. We're okay sharing the land. We don't want to take all the land away from everybody so you can't hunt or fish or anything else, but we want to run cattle. We pay a lease. It's called the Taylor Act. The Taylor Grazing Act. I think it was founded in 1934. So even on my private ranch, I lease from the federal government, I lease from the state, but I have a private ranch too. The government tells me how I can and can't trap on my own private ranch. The kinds of traps I can and can't use. And the legislature, in their infinite wisdom, passed a law where we can't trap on public lands anymore. But I can darn sure trap on my private property, but the government does tell me how and when I can, because it's a known wolf habitat. It's not only about the depredations. It's about your greenback. It's about the stress on your cattle. It's about my 13 grandkids playing in the backyard or playing down at the barn or wherever else they want to play on my private ranch. The hazing, let's haze them to our neighbors. That's a great idea. That's a great, Jackie, here, you take the wolves. We don't want them on us. Let's haze them to Jackie. Let's haze them to Double H. Let's haze them to the Salisburys. That's not a great idea. And it's not common sense to do that. The governor's a little bit pissed off at me right now, but I'm going to fight like crazy to get her to sign this declaration. A little mad is because I'm the only one that's ever given her a veto override. And that was on the school days mandate for this rural New Mexico. Yeah. So she's a little mad at me, but she can get over it, just like she got it. And we'll fight like crazy. So what I would ask that you do for me is to give me a list of exactly what you need. Money, a budget, the people, everything that you're asking for, because if we can get an emergency declared, she can, if she'll sign it, we'll talk to her. I want all of Hayden's information, and I would love to hand deliver it to her office and ask her for that emergency declaration, and I'm happy to do that. So please keep fighting, guys. That's what we're here to do. We're here to fight for Catherine County and our way of life. And so thank you again for doing this. We've already contacted Socorro County to try to get them to do the same thing. My neighbors in the Socorro County area are suffering. We're suffering. We've had tons of kills on us, and I'm sure tons of others. So thank you again, and you guys, God bless America. Woo!
Yes, sir, just really quick, because we've stopped the public comment part.
My name's Paul Giesman. I own some chickens.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, solutions. It's all about who calls the shots, who's making the rules, right? Okay, you're under what's called a corporate government. In other words, the federal government and whatever. And if you had the guts, and there's the way to do it. Declare the county as a republic. Then you would be in charge. You wouldn't have to listen to anybody, any governments or anything. Now, so how about our money, our government money, our money, that money. You know how rich this county would be if you could turn the logging loose, you could turn the ranchers doing what they want to do. You could do the hunting. You could even have a nice wolf hunt. It would bring in income. So if you want to be a republic, that's your solution. Because taking your hat in your hand to some government organization ain't gonna work. You know that. So if you have the guts to do it, you can do it.
All right, thank you. Hey, lastly, we'll hear from Mr. Hughes.
Thank you.
This is our county sheriff, Mr. Keith Hughes.
Morning, everyone. I thank everybody for being here. It means a lot. Just keep the momentum going. I feel the tide is going to turn here shortly. It's got to. I want to thank the commissioners for what you're doing. As a sheriff, I stand behind you 110%, or beside you, in front of you, however it goes. I'm here for you. Appreciate all your help. We, as a sheriff's office, are fed up with it just as much as you are. We've heard numerous times today about the children. I know you people in here are tired of your cattle being killed, tired of your pets being killed, tired of the wildlife being on the verge of being wiped out. I'll be damned if I'm going to let a kid be killed. Amen. It's not going to happen under my watch. I am not going to go tell some parent we found what's left of your child. It's not going to happen. Last fall, we appointed a deputy to be a school resource officer. It's under the umbrella of several different things. But one of the things is because of wolves. I am going to say it here in open meeting. If a wolf goes on the school property, it's signed as death warrant. We're not going to tolerate it. It will not. It won't last very much longer. As far as them being in populated areas, not going to be tolerated any longer. We're taking the pie and slicing it. We're going to eat a piece of the pie, pick the fights that we can win. Yesterday, there was a wolf. Mr. Spurgeon's, we call Fish and Wildlife. Their response was, we're going to run it up the pole and see what they say. Well, when this meeting is over with, if that decision hasn't come back down the pole, we're going to take care of it. By whatever means necessary. Of course, the way it goes around, oh my God, they're going to kill a wolf. I didn't say that, did I? I said we're going to use whatever means necessary to get this wolf out of the village of reserve where it does not belong. The kids here in town should be able to go to that park and play basketball at night. Their parents should not have to worry about them because of some, it's not even a wolf really, It walks up to you just like a dog, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what happens when a child takes off running, they see that wolf? What that wolf's instinct's gonna do, the same thing as a dog or anything else would do, it's gonna chase. And then there's no going back. So that wolf will not be in reserve much longer. Hopefully they get the message and come down here and take care of their problem. Private land. Another piece of the pie, a little bit bigger piece of the pie, a little bit harder to consume. There should not be a wolf on your private land unless you want to pick. Period. That wolf is trespassing. I've already spoken to the undersheriff about it. We're looking at ways that we can possibly file charges on Mr. Brady McGee. If the wolf goes on your private land, kills one of your dog, your pet, your cat, your horse, your cow. There's state criminal statute that if you turn a dog loose, again, that's basically what they are. They're hand fed, they're vaccinated, they're kept under control. They're somebody's pet that they just want them dumped out. They're not wild animals. They've been dumped out in the wild, just like if somebody wants to dump a dog. But there are state statutes that say if your dog goes and kills somebody's hotspot, you can face them charges. That's a bigger piece of the pie, a little bit harder to consume. But that's the direction we're going to start going with. That ain't going to happen overnight. We got to get a lot of ducks in a row before. We're not going to do it and lose them. Again, we're going to pick fights that we can win and win them. And again, I did not say we're going to kill a wolf. We're going to take the necessary means to take care of the problem. If they, what we got to do is what we got to do. I did say if it goes to school property, it's not a death penalty. I am not afraid to say that in an open meeting in front of all of you. If a wolf goes on the school property, it ain't gonna be around much longer. It's not gonna go back to second. Again, appreciate y'all. I'd like to say one thing about Just Terry. If there is something you could do to make this act you're gonna do, his legacy, and name it the Jeff Terry Act or something so that his legacy, this work program of all the work that he's done carries on. I think that'd be a great idea.
All right.
All day. You don't want to hear me blabber on all day, but that's where we stand with it. If wolf comes up to your residence, call us. We'll take appropriate action. Okay?
All right.
If you, county officials are getting harassed by the environmentalists, eco-terrorists, or whatever the heck they want to call themselves, if you're getting harassed by them, let us know. If it meets the elements of a crime, we will file charges on. We're not going to tolerate it. You citizens standing up for your rights get harassed by the liberal environmentalists, let us know. Again, if it meets the elements of a crime, we will follow through with this. Okay? That's all I have.
All right. Hey, we thank everybody again for your patience and for staying here with us during the duration of this meeting. We all know that this is going to be a long fight. We are seeking as a county every single avenue that we can to fight this problem. And we just want you to know that. And so with that, we are going to turn to the action item, consideration of resolution 56-2025, declaring an emergency in the county of Catron due to extreme and continual injury and damage caused by Mexican gray wolves. Is there any further discussion?
Sure, you want to explain what it does?
You bet.
Chairman, this declaration of emergency is specific under New Mexico law, under the All Hazards Management Act, as well as other state laws, including the New Mexico Civil Emergency Preparedness Act. And so it's doing a couple of things. And again, there are lots of other things that need to be done. This is just one piece of the pie. But it is officially declaring that this is an emergency, which, as we've heard described in the meeting, this is no different than a flood or a hurricane. It is a man-made natural disaster, but it's a natural disaster that is hurting the livelihood and the economy and the animals of our county. So it's incorporating the facts that lead to a disaster and making that declaration that yes, it is one. What that does under the specific laws that are cited would be to allow the release of state funds. We see how we need those funds to continue operations and to protect our inhabitants and our livestock. It also is requesting that the governor deploy the New Mexico National Guard under the direction of our adjutant general, and that would allow resources to come in with a lot of fun toys as well. That would allow the National Guard to work within the confines of the law, but to protect our inhabitants, as well as to do what the environmentalists and even under the Endangered Species Act is requested that it to allow soldiers to do conflict avoidance, and I think that will do a lot. So I would request that if this is declared, that our representative Gail Armstrong do walk to the governor's office. I think it's something that everyone can support, and it's something that we need.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Is there any further discussion?
I don't have much of a discussion. I just think that enough is enough, and I make a motion, we approve that resolution.
I second that motion.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous. Do we need a roll call on in, Adrian? Okay.
District 1?
Buster Green, aye.
District 2? Audrey McQueen, aye. District 3?
Hayden Forward, aye.
Motion carries unanimous. We thank you all again. We were going to try to keep this meeting at 2 hours. We went an hour over, but we thank you for your persistence. And next commission meeting will be April 16th, 2025, 9 a.m. Meeting is now adjourned.
Oh, so the one on staff is on first up full of the. What? But